I think indeed it is a very special moment because we celebrate in a way the donation of a number of artifacts, a private donation by the family Weiss, who was ready, the heirs of those who were giving these items 100 years ago, and now the heirs are saying, yes, we would like to give it to a larger audience. We don't want to keep it for us, but to give it to a larger audience. So they decided to donate it to the Institute of Ethiopian Studies here in Addis Ababa. I think this is wonderful because it shows, let's say, civil, private commitment to the larger audience, to society at large, and not to keep things only for themselves, but to share it, this rich cultural signals, the items, the artifacts we are. In this context, I want to be very clear. It is not being taken, it's not about a return, it is about a gift, it's a donation. And just imagine you, other people from Ethiopia, going to Europe, buying German paintings, and then in 100 years, I think nobody should say, oh, you have to return it to Germany, right? So this is something very distinct from what you were just saying. It is a donation, and this, I think, is something very specific because there was no legal, no moral, no nothing pressure, but just the free will of those who are donating their items, their private items, to return, not to return it, but to give it. And I think it was also made clear in the speeches that some of these items were gifts even by the emperor or the Rastafari at those days, given to this family, to my, if you want to say, my predecessor 100 years ago. And I think this is something showing very nicely the relationship between Germany and Ethiopia. 100 years ago, the Ethiopian Rastafari, the later King of Kings, was giving as a private gift to the envoy on the occasion of the birth of his son this crown, for example. You mentioned the Goethe Institute very correctly. I want to mention the German school here in Addis Ababa. It's also a cultural, if you want to say, educational institute where Ethiopian children and German children meet. And let me take three more points. One is the 22nd International Conference on Ethiopian Studies, which just took place like 2 months back in Havasa, and I was very fortunate to take part in this. And it was amazing to see how many German scholars are still very interested today in Ethiopian studies. A second example I want to give is the museum in Vukro, where they just celebrated 10 years of this museum, where they have a wonderful altar which is like 2,700 years old. And here again, it was a strong Ethiopian-German cooperation to build this museum. And my third example would be for this cultural cooperation between Ethiopia and Germany, Yeha, close to Adwa. We have been talking a lot today about Adwa. And this is a very historic site. I had the privilege to visit already twice or three times. And there are German archaeologists on the site, still today, building a museum, doing excavation together with their Ethiopian counterpart, their colleagues, to work collectively on discovering these wonderful historic archaeological sites, and which is, of course, the rich history of Ethiopia, but also it is, of course, part of our mankind.